Rugby League on Sky Sports in association with Stan James, the sports bookmaker, whatever your sport.
Two of Britain's greatest seats of learning, Oxford and Cambridge universities. Famous old rivals at whatever level you care to mention, whether it's on the academic front or the sporting field. And when it comes to Rugby League, there's now been a quarter of a century of history. Last year, Oxford beat their old rivals for the second year in a row, but they have never won 3 in a row before. So is 2005 the year that they'll claim a famous hat-trick? It's a boot and all special this week. We're live at the Richmond Athletic Grounds for the 25th P-cubed varsity match between Oxford and Cambridge. It's a chilly night for the students from two of Britain's greatest academic institutions. But a warm welcome to this Boots and All special. We have live coverage of that 25th annual varsity match between the dark blues of Oxford and the light blues of Cambridge. We'll be live at the Richmond Athletic Grounds in a few moments' time after I've welcomed our special guests to the studio. A.D. Spencer was a member of the Cambridge University set-up for 4 years, while Wigan's Brian Carney was a member of the Irish Students' national side before graduating to play in the Super League with Gateshead Hull and now Wigan Warriors. It's a pleasure to be here with you both, fellas. And AD, I remember sitting in this very studio just 12 months ago, and we watched the Oxford and Cambridge match. That day, the standard of the varsity game went through the roof, didn't it?
It did, and we hope it's on an up and up. I mean, that's the reason we're back here again with the Sky coverage. It's fantastic news. I said it last year, it is the pinnacle of a lot of these guys' careers. And it's very difficult to describe how important this one single game is. No other game that happens during the season is important. You can lose all the games, win this one, and you've had a successful season.
And there's no mystery or question about where your affinity will lie tonight. You're in light blue, so that means you're with Cambridge.
I am, absolutely. I had 4 fantastic years there and played in 4 great varsity matches. I know that both teams this year have actually got the same coaches that were in place last year. The standard, hopefully, will roll on from last year. It was a brilliant game. Both teams have been on pre-season tours to France. They've had training camps. I know that Wayne Bennett and Sean Edwards went to Cambridge for a coaching session. So all things are in place for a great game.
All being well, and I'm sure it will be. Now, Oxford, they have lost a couple of friendlies pre this match, London Broncos and Featherstone Rovers. But that really is, for these boys, Brian, taking things on to yet another level, isn't it?
It is. I think both of them have taken the pre-season friendlies and played them against teams from what's traditionally the Rugby League heartland. I know Cambridge, they played our under-21s, Wigan under-21s, and they got a hiding in that game. But they'll have learned a lot from it. Oxford went and played Featherstone, as you said, and I think got touched up in that game as well. But again, they'll take something from that game. So forget about the pre-season scores. I think it's going to be more important that these two are playing at their own level. They're not trying to play somebody, you know, on that different level. So that should you know, make for a very close game.
It should indeed. And well, Cambridge, they have won only 1 of the last 5. So I just wonder whether this will be their night. Let's check on the way the two teams line up, shall we? That's the scene at Richmond. It's a chilly, chilly night. This is Oxford's team. They have Matt Scaife at full-back. Then it goes James Dieppe, Joe Bailey, John Bradshaw, John Corcoran, the three-quarter line, Mark Drew, and Alan Eddington is the scrum half. And the forwards, Tom Campbell, Ben Simpson, Ben Dunnett, Chris Hadfield, Peter Raftery, and the captain is Chris Fitzgerald at loose forward. And on the bench for Oxford, Paul Mulryan, Alex Edmonds, Nigel Brooke-Walters and Simon Dewsbury. The coach is Paul Johnston. Now the boys from Cambridge, Adam Statton is the full-back. Indranil Basu is on the wing with Pete Quentin inside him, Dave Bully and Frank Walding completing the three-quarters. Sam Udan and Alex Drysdale at scrum half. The forwards, Tom Ridgway, Nick Rustling, Johnny Lloyd, Richard Draycott, Edward Phillips, and Craig Bennett is the Cambridge captain. Once upon a time he was on St Helens Academy books. And on the bench it's Chris Grunberg, Alex Story, Tom Finnegan and Carl Bradshaw. The coach is John Evans. And this is the scene, as I say, at Richmond. AD, the Cambridge side And it really is chilly there tonight, as you can see. The girls are all wrapped up warm against the cold. The Cambridge side almost unrecognisable from last year.
They are, yes. They have retained a couple of players. They've actually lost Ed Hales, their captain, which was quite a tragic blow 2 weeks before the game as well, with a broken leg. Speaking to some of the Cambridge players over the last couple of days, they feel they've really got a great chance this year. They know they were outclassed in the pack and in the backs last year. They think that the key area for them is the forwards. They think they've got a great set of forwards. I believe they're going to keep it tight and play around the ruck and hope for a good kicking game this year. Their kick and chase last year was very suspect. They'll be hoping for something a lot better this year.
Out they come, and Oxford, well, they have an unusually inexperienced squad, including just 4 or 5 players with previous varsity experience. But Brian, do we look into anything from the past? I mean, it's gone Oxford, Oxford, Cambridge in 2002, then Oxford, Oxford again, but no one's ever won 3 in a row.
Yeah, that's it's hard to really look too deep into it, Eddie. You know, things tend to change, especially in university and student rugby. From year to year, you lose players. You know, they leave the university. So I think we'll just have to take this one on its merits. It'll be just an individual game, and I don't think form has got too much to go on. Fantastic firework display. I trust that you enjoyed your student rugby league when you played it, though, did you, at national level? I loved it. I got a chance to play for my country, which was tremendous, and these guys got the chance to play for their university, which, as Adi said, it will be the pinnacle of their career in front of a national TV audience, so it's really a huge moment for these guys.
OK, it's almost time then for the main event. It's Oxford against Cambridge. Oxford have won 4 of the last 5. Is this to be Cambridge's year? Commentary from Steve-O, Phil Clark, and first it's a very good evening to Bill Arthur.
Phil Bentham, the referee here at Richmond Athletic Ground, and a very chilly night indeed. The smoke from the fireworks just drifting away in the distance, and earlier on we had sleet, snow, howling winds, but thankfully it's all died down just in time for the kick-off. But conditions, I think, are still going to be very greasy indeed. And it's going to be safety first for both these sides, I reckon, Phil.
Well, I think it's the occasion rather than the conditions that both of them need to come to terms with first. We saw last year both of the sides perhaps too nervous that the event got to them, and they need to maybe make a better start. I think that listening to both camps before and the coaching comments that we've read going into this match, we're aware that they need to handle the occasion. And a positive and encouraging and strong start is what both sides are looking for.
The Cambridge will get us underway in the light blue kit, and Sam Uden will kick into the face of a swirling wind, which I'm certain is going to play a big part in how this game pans out. And a first hit up from Tom Campbell, the Australian in this Oxford side. Oxford on a bit of a roll in this varsity challenge, going for 3rd win in a row. And they've lost that ball, and it's Craig Bennett, I think, who's come up with it. The referee hasn't seen it. He's got a bit of assistance from his touch judge there, and Craig Bennett will just have a little bit of off the ball. The referee is just having a word with Craig Bennett there. The Cambridge skipper just got a little bit carried away.
I think he's fortunate, maybe, yes. He didn't concede a penalty, but he'll be happy with possession now inside one of those halves. I think in these conditions as well, territorial advantage will be paramount.
Chris Hadfield, I think, who spilled that ball, and Craig Bennett was just a little bit too gleeful in his celebration of the fact that Cambridge had come up with possession. But first set of 6 for the light blues. Here's Johnny Lloyd, and a good hit there from the Oxford defence.
Well, the one lesson that Oxford took from the defeat at Featherstone leading up to this match was that they needed to start well. They've hit some good tackles early on, and again you see the line moving up quick here now to, oh, that's a great defence from marker. Who was it there going in? Was it Alan Eddington coming across with a strong tackle?
Richard Draycott certainly felt that. Now here's Tom Ridgway. 5 tackles gone, and Cambridge keeping it very simple right up the middle of the field. And then the kick from Drysdale. That's going to be too strong. Well, Cambridge, of course, were hit very early on last year by that whirlwind start from Oxford. Bradshaw scoring inside the first 5 minutes. They'll be glad just to keep Oxford at bay, I'm sure.
He is one player with blistering pace. He scored a length of the field try against Featherstone in that match we've spoken about. He really, even against some classy players in the Featherstone under-21 side, had too much pace for them. And if they can find him, he's playing out in the right centre position. He is a major threat for Oxford University here tonight.
Campbell again driving that ball up for Oxford. They're just about 40 metres out. Ball popped back inside by Eddington, but defence there in numbers to meet him.
The referee's taking both sides back a very big, generous 10 metres, so it gives space for both sides to move the ball, and that's exactly what Oxford are doing.
Well, they're just going straight across the field at the moment. The tackle by Idranil Basu. And Oxford still inside their own half on the 5th tackle. It's the captain, Chris Fitzgerald, tackled there. And then Eddington puts crossfield kick in, and that's for Frank Walding to field, and Walding very comfortable underneath that one. Staton gets away from one, makes good yards for Cambridge.
You can see the determination, 5 and 6 men committing themselves to the tackle. They're just going to be careful, Oxford, that they don't overdo that and leave too many gaps in the defensive line.
Good run from Tom Ridgway. He is a big no-nonsense figure, Ridgway. There's 5 tackles gone, and they're just inside that Oxford half.
You must give him 10. You need to give him 10.
Drysdale puts the kick in. It's fielded by John Corcoran. Well, both these sides just examining each other at the moment. There goes Bradshaw, the danger man for Oxford. Scored 2 tries in that game at Featherstone Rovers last month. One of them a length of the field interception. Great pace.
I think the Oxford fans who've come here tonight to watch, they sort of sense something could happen when the ball's in his hands.
That's Ben Dunnett just playing the ball there, and Dunnett doing very well to play here tonight as Oxford come up with a knock-on. Eddington couldn't take that ball.
Pretty good defence as well by Cambridge. That's the one thing that they'll be very, very pleased with. They're going up as a unit, and they're going extremely quickly down the centre, and they're forcing Oxford down the middle channel, and that's the reason why they came up with the error.
So Cambridge in possession, they dart down that short side. Little break from Alex Drysdale. There is Ben Dunnett, who was under the surgeon's knife earlier this afternoon, suffered a nasty bit of blood poisoning and wasn't going to play, and then went and had a quick operation to drain the infection, and he's out there tonight. And hard luck on Tim Smith, who thought he was playing. There's the penalty, the first of the game, conceded by Oxford. And there is Ben Dunnett.
Possibly now the best attacking position for Cambridge. A big strong run here.
Oh, and good hit.
A tackle.
And that is a great tackle by Pete Raftery.
Superb effort. Look, straight in underneath the ball, dislodges possession, and on the first tackle helps his teammates. Superb tackle there. That will be a massive boost for his Oxford teammates.
Well, Tom Ridgway it was who felt that. Great response that was from Oxford, and that's the sort of tackle that really does lift your side.
Well, Eddie Spencer was talking before in the studio. He thought maybe this standard will go up again another level this year. I think we've seen that already in the defensive forces of both sides. Penalty now going to Oxford.
That's Alex Drysdale penalised there. He was very late.
Well, it's a wasted opportunity, isn't it? Because they've worked hard at Cambridge, got themselves in a good position. And not thinking very quickly at all, the halfback Drysdale. But again, good, solid defence.
And Oxford keeping it simple.
2, clear, square.
It's Tom Campbell, ex-Brisbane Boys College, Campbell. Oh, and that is knocked on. Has the referee seen it? He's saying play on. Touch judge signalled that it wasn't played at. It was an inadvertent knock-on by Cambridge. In fact, it wasn't even knocked on by Cambridge. I do him an injustice, and well spotted by Sam Uden, who got to that ball quickly. So Cambridge have certainly dominated territorially in the opening 7 or 8 minutes here.
Both sides have probably looked stronger in defence than they have in attack, and maybe even more comfortable when they're defending. Maybe as the game settles on, they might just I think we found this last year, settle down into the nerves of the match. It's a 5th tackle now. Can the Cambridge kicking game put any pressure? I don't think that's gone to the man they'd want it to.
And they've lost their way a little bit there, Cambridge. They're keeping this ball alive, and that's been touched, I think, by Oxford. And he's going to give the turnover, or is he? He's now going to consult with his touch judge.
Well, they threw it back, didn't they, first to Tom Ridgway, and then forcing that, they had to keep it going. That ball did go backwards.
Without a doubt, Joe Bailey gets a hand to this.
It's a handover. Yeah.
Well, perhaps they were a little bit lucky, Cambridge, before, but now then.
Okay, just hold
this will be the turnover. He deemed it was on the last. Oh, not the best pass.
It's just a little bit sloppy from Oxford at the moment.
Release. Here. Well worked.
Oxford on the charge with Chris Hadfield, 6'4" second rower. And they're keeping it among the big men.
Just look what that run's done. It's certainly taken them forward. The rest of the team need to push up with the ball carrier now. See if they can go on over the advantage line.
Oh, great defence.
He did well there, did Mark Drew, because that ball was going away from him. He did really well to keep a hold of it.
And you can see by this very solid one line of defence from Cambridge, they're not allowing Oxford any movement at all.
Play on.
Crossfield kick from Alan Eddington, and Walding under a little bit of pressure does well to get away from the chase of Bradshaw.
Release. Here.
And they're kicking to that side of the field when they get the opportunity.
And almost 10 minutes into the game, it's the first time Cambridge have been asked to come away from their own danger end. Oxford will be desperate to force a mistake here with another good tackle. Again, committing 3 men to the collision.
I think both sides feel they're feeling it a little bit. It's pretty cold out there. It's not the best conditions, and I think that both these teams are worried to do something different. They just want to slowly but surely get into it. It's not a night for fancy rugby league, that's for sure.
5th tackle, Cambridge just over their own 40-metre line. And go to the kicker again.
Sometimes get, don't you, Steve-O, that both coaches may have said to the players, listen, the team that makes the least number of mistakes will win tonight, and that's perhaps caused a hesitancy to move the ball around. They both just wanted to take it forward, complete the sets. There's sometimes an obsession in rugby league with this, completing your sets.
They've given away a silly penalty there. It's didn't allow the man to get up and play the football. That's probably been the only negative that we've seen from this Cambridge outfit. We mentioned the fact they're moving up quickly, getting right into the face of the Oxford players, but they've come up with 2 errors, and then they've given away a silly penalty.
So it just lets the pressure ease on Oxford, and they have been under pressure without their line actually being threatened. Here goes Bradshaw again. Real pace off the mark from the South African centre. He was actually on the wing in last year's varsity match. Moved him into the centre, trying to make more use of that pace and footwork. So Oxford now, their first real threat maybe on this Cambridge line. How strong is the Cambridge defence? Eddington tries to go himself. 4 tackles gone. Brought down by Craig Bennett, the Widnesian in this Cambridge side. And that's great defence, a really big hit from Tom Ridgway. Then the crossfield kick back across the field of play from Eddington. And it's cleared up by his opposite number, Alex Drysdale.
I think we see a lot of kicking tonight, mainly due to the fact that the defence is pretty solid, and neither side are willing to give this ball any air whatsoever. I think it's probably 5 or 6 occasions we've only seen a combination of passes put together. It's virtually been one-out football throughout the first 11 minutes.
I don't think the weather, Steve-O, does really tell the truth about the conditions, though, do they? There is driving rain. It's not visible on the screen, but
and it's very heavy underfoot.
That's the 5th tackle, and again the kick from Drysdale.
They're pretty good kicks because he's passing it back 10 metres from the play ball, and he's still getting about 40-50 metre gain.
That's the rugby union in him. But Drysdale has got a good boot. certainly makes up the distance there.
I think it's become very obvious, Bill, that the side that is the fittest tonight will come away with the spoils, because it's all about just safety first, then the kick, hope that the opposition comes up with an error.
They're both very fit sides. They're both prepared well for this. I know Cambridge have been on the wagon for the last 2 weeks. That's real dedication for a student, isn't it?
Well, they'll hope. Do you think they'll make up for that tonight?
I suspect they might.
What's that like,
Bill? You know what that's all about as well, don't you?
You stay on the student day, didn't you, Steve?
Yeah, I just said I was down at Oxford for 5 weeks. I was doing the central eating down there.
It's a hanging kick and a difficult one. It goes backwards and then it's knocked on. And this could be danger for Cambridge.
Well, in many ways you have to admire the patience that Oxford have shown, haven't they? They've waited 13 minutes to get a great opportunity now to post the first points in this varsity match, 2005.
It's a shame there. Drysdale looked as though he was going to take the ball, but it was Pete Quinton that came up with a knock-on. Got to keep alert all the time.
Standing out of the scrum is Ben Dunnett. Dunnett makes a few yards, and the rain driving across the field. It's into the Cambridge faces as Chris Fitzgerald, the captain, takes that ball up for the Dark Blues. And they're just about 10 metres out now, Oxford. And the ball is with Alan Eddington. Eddington was in the Varsity Rugby Union squad. Great opportunity now in the corner. They should be in. They are in. James Dieppe, I think, has got the first try. Corcoran it is, I beg your pardon. John Corcoran. And John Corcoran gets the first try of the game. That is John Corcoran, and Oxford swapping the wingers' numbers.
But I think what you saw was maybe from that scrum, you knew that John Bradshaw was always going to get his hands on the ball. Alan Eddington had been held up with it previously before, but good little in and away from Bradshaw. He held up the defenders, and then it was a simple 3v2, and Oxford executed it perfectly. Much to the pleasure of John Corcoran on the right wing.
It was well finished as well by the winger there on the right-hand side, and it's amazing, isn't it? We've been saying that safety first was going throughout this game. Here's the conversion attempt, just a bit short.
Joe Bailey couldn't get the distance. The bustling centre from Bath kicking into the teeth of the wind.
Ironic though, Bill, isn't it, that the first flowing football that we've seen tonight has produced the try.
And it was Corcoran that scored it, despite the fact that Oxford's team sheet had the wingers the other way around. Somebody not doing maths in the Oxford side. So, Oxford, first attack, first real threat, and it's paid off.
It has, yeah, they'll be happy too. They were strong in defence when they had to be. They were challenged early on, weren't they, in the game with the territorial advantage for Cambridge, but they patiently worked their way upfield and forced that mistake and took advantage of it. John Bradshaw, the right centre, is the real go-to man, as teams tend to speak about. If they can get the ball in his hands, I think as the game develops and the Cambridge players tire, you'll see him create havoc on that right-hand flank.
Well, it's worked once for Oxford. I'm pretty certain that they'll be happy to settle for that routine. Ed Phillips, the man tackled.
I think also, Bill, that Paul Johnson, the Oxford coach, will say, look, get field position first, as we did see for the very first time, then we can throw our skills into the three-quarter line.
Use your foot.
Here's Ben Dunnett. Well, for a man who was on a drip earlier on, he's not doing too badly.
He's looking very strong, isn't it? It's been a good... When you score a try, that's perfectly what you want, maybe with a better kick, but they've completed possession.
Eddington's kick is picked up by Frank Walding. And watching in the warmth of the studio, A.D. Spencer and Brian Carney. And Brian, from where you're sitting, it's clear that both sides are adopting a pretty simple plan for these conditions.
there's not too many two passes being strung together, but I think it's interesting to see that Oxford looked to be under a bit of pressure in the first 10 minutes, but the first time they got a bit of territory in Cambridge's 30, they've come up with a score. So they're playing a very, very consistent, a very solid game. Nothing too fancy, but they're doing the little things right, and that's, like we know in Super League, very important.
Oxford's head and feet at this scrum, and here is Bradshaw. Two men on him. And now Chris Fitzgerald. He's a Brummie with Wigan ancestry, I think. Chris Fitzgerald.
He's a big fan of the Cherry and Whites. I was speaking to him about Brian Carney, big hero of his.
Well, they were
to see him back on the field pretty soon.
They were at the JJB last Friday night for that humdinger between the Warriors and the Bulls, and were absolutely thrilled by what they saw. That's good defence from Oxford, from Cambridge, but Oxford get the ball away, and it's with Corcoran again.
Well, talk about moving the ball, they've just done that in these conditions. That's superb skill. They've shifted it to the right wing. Can they take advantage now? The Cambridge defenders straggling back.
Oh, yes, they can. And Bradshaw will get on the score sheet again. And simple, so simple, but the timing was everything there. And John Bradshaw, 2 tries in last year's varsity match, is on the mark again. And certainly it's going Oxford's way at the moment.
Well, he really is a class above the majority of the players on this field. And he just shows that with the timing of this run to perfection. Slides through the defence, swerves and dives to make it a pretty easy kick, celebrates by on his back. Well, I don't know whether he wanted somebody to come up and pour a drink in him as he lay down, Gazaresque.
Could have had a hat-trick in last year's varsity, in fact, John Bradshaw, had he not got confused by the pitch markings. Seem to recall.
I remember that well.
Took a bit of living down, apparently, that did.
Certainly did. It cost him a few drinks in the bar afterwards. The one advantage about that, you know, it may have looked quite simple that Bradshaw went for that, but he came on the angle away. He wasn't running directly flat into the defence. He was pulling himself away from it, and the gap got wider and wider. It was an easy try in the end, but well worked.
Successful conversion from Joe Bailey, and Oxford ahead by 10 points to 0.
You know, just listening to the referee there speaking to one or two of the Oxford players going back, he's saying, listen, remind your players you need to touch your foot on the ball as you're playing it. It's hard to imagine, Steve, because some of these are so new to the game, it does take a while to pick up what we often in rugby league circles think are instinctive actions, aren't they?
No, you're right there, Phil, and that's where it's important that the official has a little bit of flexibility about it. As we all know from our years and years of experience being involved in this game, if a referee wants to pull you up for some infringement, he can. Let's hope he doesn't.
Well, apparently the Cambridge bus has been delayed on its way to the ground as Oxford come up with a knock-on dangerously close to their own line. Cambridge fans held up in the snow, and they won't be sorry they missed the first 20 minutes or so here, but well, I think they might if they arrive soon.
Would feel as though he turned, didn't he, with his back to allow that kick to go backwards. It's maybe a tough call against him.
Well, a great opportunity for the Light Blues here now to get some points on the scoreboard. Drysdale. 2 tackles gone, and Oxford defending that line ferociously. It's close to the line, and they're going for it. I think it was Nick Rustling. Fancied his chances there, it was, and Rustling was just short. Now it's Richard Draycott who's trying to burrow his way over, but it's not getting them anywhere. A little grubber kick comes in, and it's knocked on again by the Oxford defence, and another opportunity for Cambridge here, and it's back to 6.
Well, the officials got it right. Oxford player definitely played at that football. Great tackle.
Draycott again, the man tackled. Rustling trying to go himself. Drysdale now. The ball back with Sam Uden. Uden gives it some air. Bennett manages to get the ball away to Adam Staton. 3 tackles gone. Untidy play the ball, but Rustling was first there. Straight up the middle now with Ed Phillips.
And Oxford just dangerously starting to drop off 1 or 2 tackles.
Drysdale. Again, it's play on, says the referee, Phil Bentham, and Oxford have the ball. Well, that is great defence from Oxford.
Outstanding, wasn't it? There was a period where they just kept charging from the play the ball area, and Oxford all down, set, close in position. They were all up for it, and then when they shifted the ball, they had enough numbers to get across and prevent a Cambridge try. Now Chris Fitzgerald, he has a massive work rate again.
Well, that was high from Tom Ridgway. Referee said it was over the shoulder, and in fact it's Ridgway who's come off second best there. Ridgway's still down in back play.
Well, he certainly went high, didn't he? And as you say, he's down injured. It'll be a big blow for them because it's a pretty solid forward as well. You know, Oxford will be quite happy with the way that Cambridge had that ball for 2 sets of 6. And, oh, that's a poor mistake.
Great option, Steve, wasn't it? He saw some space, but he couldn't quite execute that pass. It was a 3v1 situation. He had both Bradshaw and Corcoran outside him.
Yeah.
He knew what he wanted to do, but just couldn't find the skill to do it.
Well, I think he was hoping that the centre leave Corcoran out wide and the centre come back on the inside. But I must say, he's a talent, isn't he? He's John Bradshaw.
Let's get in.
Well, Tom Ridgway has certainly come off second best in that particular duel. Bit of claret there. And I think in his place, Chris Grunberg has come on for the Light Blues. And that's, I think it was his own player that did it to him. It was Nick Rustling, I think.
And to be fair to him, after you watch the replay, I think it was a fair tackle.
3 tackles gone. The Light Blues enjoying a good spell of possession here. Here's Craig Bennett now. Bennett, little show, a little go, and it's a first touch for Grunberg.
Well, that's good play, isn't it? Nice short pass there from Bennett. Can they go on with it? There's space and opportunity to the left if they move it there.
Looping pass, Oxford getting numbers across. Rustling. Ball is back, a little chip kick goes in. Oh, and good defence there, well done from Matt Scaife.
Well, that's the first real test for Scaife, and he was in the perfect position, wasn't it? Great kick by the Cambridge side. Very brave to go down there head first for the ball, did well not to knock on.
You have Craig Bennett breathing down his neck.
Just look how quickly now the Oxford side have had the majority of possession. Look how quickly now Cambridge moving up to try and get back into it. There's Joe Bailey helping his forwards out, trying to clear the line.
He's a really chunky figure, Joe Bailey.
And again, Chris Fitzgerald, he takes at least 1 carry every set of 6 that they have the ball.
Well, both skippers are really trying to lead their sides by example, and Craig Bennett and his opposite number, Chris Fitzgerald, doing sterling work for their sides.
Great tackle again.
Good work by Peter Raftery. Well, Scruffy played the ball and knock on there.
Well, here's the enthusiasm in the Oxford chase. 25 minutes into the game, we see on a kick chase there Peter Raftery. He's come up with some fantastic tackles today. Straight up on the man, and then eventually on the back of that a knock-on from Cambridge. It just goes to show you why so many sides place an emphasis on the quality of that kick chase. You get that side of your game right, very often you'll get a mistake from your opponents, and all of a sudden you can have some fun and you can have possession.
It is, to be fair, a bitterly cold night, and I'm sure hands out there are freezing cold. Certainly aren't up here on the gantry. Oxford once more putting the pressure on. And Nigel Brooke-Walters, and it's a big game for Nigel Brooke-Walters, the first competitive game for almost a year, having suffered a nasty neck injury. And I know you've been talking to him about that situation. He suffered a neck injury playing, I think, at Wasps. Right, certainly got an involvement there. Well, he's come back and he's
here now. His teammates here on the 5th tackle. It's gone to Matt Scaife and he's put the kick to the corner. Everyone's onside.
It's well taken by Frank Walding. So Cambridge again under pressure.
They certainly look the more eager, don't they, Oxford? And they look to have more idea when they get into a good position. We notice the fact that Oxford, well, perhaps they have had more possession, but Cambridge will be bitterly disappointed with the fact that they've had good field position, still come up with no points.
Give him 10! Give him 10!
Well, they really are under a lot of pressure, and that's a lucky bounce.
Did he get his hands to the ball?
From Alex Drysdale's kick.
He's looking for it. He got lost. No, he pulls away. My eyes aren't that good. We know that.
Make sure you bind properly,
But
please.
Cambridge, despite Drysdale's kick, really struggling to get out of their own half now as Fitzgerald goes for Oxford. And he's lost that ball.
Actually, that could have been a penalty as well. It's good work. He's impressed with this fella from the scrum base. See the Cambridge player obviously just interfering, pushing him away.
You're showing your true colours here. No interference at all. He knocked on.
He was pushed by the Cambridge player.
Is that a dark blue beanie hat you're wearing?
I told you,
Yes,
I put the central heat in it.
I think Cambridge needs somebody here back in this game. They need something to come up with a big run or something special. They need an impact from somebody on the field. The momentum and the enthusiasm is completely with Oxford at the moment.
I think what you've got to also remember, Phil, is that remember when Cambridge got to a threatening position, that they played 11 out of the 12 play the balls within a space of only 5 to 6 metres. They've got to give it a little bit of risk, give it more air, and maybe on this they've got the penalty. Interference, holding down, no doubt about it. Drew, the culprit. And from here, they've got to test their arm. They've got to put on something a little bit more unusual.
That is a very ambitious kick.
He's confident in his kicking ability, isn't he? Well, he's got away with it just, but Alex Drysdale was, what, 15 metres from this near touchline, and he kicked to the opposite side.
To be fair, there's a gale force wind helping. He didn't on that occasion. This will be head and feet. He took it in the
well, that
field
could have
of
been
play.
dangerous. If Bradshaw had taken that, he's not the sort of guy you want to kick to. But Cambridge have got away with it again. Is the luck with the light blues? They trail by 10 points to 0. Here's the skipper, Craig Bennett, with Ed Phillips now, and Phillips, strong driving run from the second row. Maybe that'll galvanise them a bit.
It's the first time we've seen somebody in a light blue jersey break through a couple of tackles and go forward.
Oh, and then they let that one go, and that was a dreadful pass.
Forward by 14.
It's very hard to take a pass, isn't it, when the player's running across the field and you're trying to run at a perpendicular angle to him.
Well, you certainly couldn't wish that Grunberg was going to get that ball. It was an awful offload.
He's 6'4", Chris Grunberg, but even he had to stretch for that one.
He would need to be about 12'6". Still, he was a shocker of a ball.
So Cambridge guilty of squandering possession and made to pay for it.
Well, did he lose that in
Well, he did.
I think it was an offload, actually. He was tempted to offload to Corcoran, and the referee's given them the advantage to take from that.
Oh, they've lost that ball. Picked up by Pete Quentin.
Well, I think both coaches at half-time say, look, fellas, let's cut out this short passing movement. Let's give yourself a few metres behind, run onto the football. I know they're trying to emulate most of the forwards in Super League.
Little set two in back play between Craig Bennett and Nigel Brooke-Walters, which was sorted out by the referee. A little bit of continuation there.
Okay, just walk away a second.
It's Nigel Brooke-Walters, and I think there's a year's worth of frustration now out of the game.
Nothing to play the ball. I'd already stopped the clock there.
They just tried to bury his head, didn't he?
All right, cut it out. Yeah, it's all right. No worries.
And the referee just having a quiet word. Meanwhile, there's a player down injured.
To be fair, I think the official's doing a fine job. A couple of maybe dodgy decisions, but that appears with all referees. But it's kept the game flowing, hasn't it?
Well, I think it's mud in the eye for Alan Eddington. Scotland under-19 rugby union player. Here's mud in your eye.
Yeah, 2.
He's important too, isn't he? They need him back. They need him back in the defensive line. Not only has he done some good stuff when they've had the ball, but a pretty good defender for him too.
Still down.
Yeah.
Sometimes a break in play can just cause a team to lose the concentration. Maybe Oxford here now. They've been had to stand in that defensive line for a minute or two.
I think they feel that if they can just get 6 points, perhaps, converted try, Cambridge, they'll feel pretty confident.
Tackle 2.
But yet again, they've got to be a little bit more adventurous.
3. Release. Here.
Story is tackled. There's Carl Bradshaw, number 17 for Cambridge. He's got plenty of rugby league experience with the London Broncos Academy about 4 years ago. And Eddington penalised. Penalty. And the penalty goes to Cambridge. And it'll be right on in front of the posts. And with the wind across the field, it's going to be a difficult kick, I think, this. And Uden it is. Will take this kick. And the ball just toppling off the kicking tee.
Well, they need something, don't they, Cambridge? Maybe just this could be the thing that starts them back into it, Bill.
Well, Sam Uden, now with the aid, I think, of his skipper. The wind really is swirling around. But 2 important points on offer here for Cambridge. He struck that one well, but it's drifted away on the wind. Cambridge will get the ball back, and Sam Uden had an opportunity there to get them off the mark, and they'll be kicking themselves for that.
They will, but still at 10 points. I think they don't know here that they're going to get possession back here from this kick. They just stood up as if they were in a defensive line. They need to readjust quickly. Bailey looks to get some depth on that kick. It's trapped well now. Cambridge should again take it over the halfway line. But the impressive factor really in the whole game has been the quality of the Oxford defence. I know they were so disappointed with the effort they put in at Featherstone, and maybe if anything that's done them a good lesson, Bill, because defensively they've been impressive. They've been strong, they've committed men to the tackle, and they've missed very few one-on-one efforts. Again, Chris Fitzgerald, he appears as though he's all over the field, again involved in that tackle.
On his opposite number, Craig Bennett, and then Cambridge again dropped that ball, and they're their own worst enemies at the moment.
They've almost got an in-your-face attitude, haven't they, in defence, Oxford, and it's paying off. It's just forcing a few mistakes, a few too many mistakes for Cambridge to give themselves a chance here.
Real glue pot in the middle of the field there, and Pete Raftery's struggling to turn in it there, and he needs a bit of four-wheel drive. Bradshaw is tackled just inside his own half.
Oh,
is Eddington, lovely ball. Oh, and they're getting ambitious, just a little bit too ambitious there.
Take the first one. You've already hit
and Alex Edmonds went without that.
Well, he was passed off the floor actually. Firstly, he's been penalised there. It's a shame. Evans did knock on. Is it Bailey there? Almost passing in a rugby union fashion off the floor. And Edmonds knocked on, but a penalty and a kick to touch, and a good kick now gives Cambridge an opportunity. Approaching half-time to maybe register. They just need the players to push up with him. The ball carrier there, there's nobody really within 10 metres of him. If he breaks through the line as he does, needs some support, but 4 men drive him back.
Good defence from Oxford, and their supporters in the crowd here have braved these conditions. Really getting enthusiastic. Here is Bradshaw now. Pops that ball up. Some pretty fierce hits going on there, and most of them involving Nigel Brooke-Walters. Certainly is making up for lost time, but it's still with Cambridge. Running across the field, it's with Alex Drysdale, and now back infield comes Idranil Basu. I haven't really seen much of this Cambridge right winger. He's got a lot of pace, but he hasn't had the opportunity to show it.
Again, good defence from Oxford. They've been solid when they've been tested.
Hey, get the blockers out! Play on!
Little grubber kick comes in, and again it's well dealt with. It's Bradshaw once more. He is everywhere.
There hasn't really been a big difference between the two sides. Just a bit of class in the Oxford side that has at times had an ability to find the way through the line, and importantly, over the try line for those two scores.
Well, Cambridge trying to pin Oxford down now inside their own 20. Bodies in the tackle there. And they're about 20 metres out, still struggling to make ground. 4 tackles gone. This is better from Cambridge defensively, and then they go and spoil it and give the penalty away.
Well, still as they get to half-time, I think we've seen maybe an improved Cambridge performance. They didn't start the game too well, but they're penalised for holding down. Sloppy in that tackle area.
Stay back.
See the strength of the wind, really. It's preventing Oxford from kicking this to touch. They're going to have to tap it and keep it in the field of play.
Just a few flakes of snow drifting in on the wind now. Oh, and then Pete Raftery went without the ball spectacularly then. And Cambridge throwing caution to the wind. It's with Dave Bully. Bradshaw, dear me, knock-ons galore there.
Well, do you think maybe the team themselves are sensing a frustration and desperation to get some reward for the possession and the territorial advantage in the first half?
Well, they must look at that scoreboard and think 10-0, they could be a lot further behind. It's not that bad for them, and if they can get some points on the board, it'll be a respectable first half.
They're probably wondering how it is 10-0 as well, because the vast majority of the game has been in the right half as we look at this field. It's been in Oxford's own half, and yet on the couple of occasions Oxford have had to score, they've taken them.
Corcoran, scorer of the first try of the evening, plays that ball, and now here's Chris Fitzgerald. The final year of his English degree, Fitzgerald, but I don't think he's exchanging words of pleasantry with his tackler there as he plays that ball.
Use your foot! Use your foot!
Eddington, that's a good pass. And Bradshaw, but Bradshaw well tackled by Dave Bully. Trying to get the ball out wide, and then Fitzgerald just puts his head down and takes that tackle. It's the 5th. And a kick from Eddington. That's a tricky one, and it's going to bounce kindly for Corcoran, and Corcoran's lost that ball.
Pass forward.
Well, they had to keep it alive, didn't he, Bill? It was the last tackle, and Corcoran knew he couldn't be afforded to be tackled in possession, and in trying to offload it, the ball went forward. Forward pass results in a turnover, and Cambridge will have possession. But with less than a minute to half-time, I can't really see them getting on the scoreboard in the first half, but they'll just want to see out this first half and have a chance to have a chat amongst themselves at half-time.
It's not as though they're actually going to have a wind advantage in the second half. The wind has just been a menace for both sides, hasn't it? As it's been across the field more than anything. It's been bitingly cold. It's got wind and snow on it, and they'll be glad as the half-time whistle blows to get to those dressing rooms with... They're getting there in a hurry as well. Sensible people. Oxford going in ahead by 10 points to 0. Corcoran and Bradshaw, their try scorers, but certainly plenty for Cambridge to play for in this second half. Oxford ahead though, 10 points to 0.
Yes, 10 points to 0, and it's no place for faint hearts. The Richmond Athletic Grounds tonight. But Oxford, they'll be well pleased with their first 40 minutes. They've been the better side defensively, there's no doubt about that. That's because Cambridge have got nil against their name at the moment. We'll look back on the first half when we return.
For those thirsting for a win in 2005, there's an oasis at the Dubai Desert Classic with the Royal Bank of Scotland, starting tomorrow morning on Sky Sports 1.
The Renault Scenic.
Nominated for 3 Academy Awards, including Best Actor Don Cheadle and Best Supporting Actress Sophie Okonedo. Hotel Rwanda.
Where does all the time go? I mean, how do you ever get a moment to yourself? If there was a book that tells you, I'd buy it. But I wouldn't have time to read it. I'm late to work, late to lunch, and late home. Because if it's not my boss acting like a 5-year-old, it's my 5-year-old acting like the boss. So stuff like sorting my insurance never gets a look in. It'd be on my to-do list, but I never have time to do one.
The 7-seater Grand Scenic. Same animal, only bigger.
A season of high-speed action from the IndyCar circuit is back. The host at Miami, Sunday 7 p.m. live on Sky Sports 3.
More live Premier League snooker coming up from the Assembly Rooms in Derby as Mark Williams takes on Jimmy White, followed by Ronnie O'Sullivan, Stephen Hendry. That's Thursday from 7 on Sky Sports 1. Right now it's half-time in the 2005 varsity match, the 25th meeting of Oxford and Cambridge Universities, and Oxford ahead by 10 points to 0. 2 tries, Corcoran and Bradshaw, and 1 kick from 2 from Bailey. Welcome back, half-time then in the varsity match. It's 10-0 to Oxford. Here in the studio we've been watching in the company of 2 special guests. Adi Spencer is a former light blue with Cambridge. Brian Carney is a former Irish Students International prior to hitting the Super League headlines with Gateshead, Hull and Wigan. And Adi, of course, made it into the big time with the London Broncos as well. So they're well qualified to talk about what we've seen for the past 40 minutes or so. Oxford, I think we have to say, and I know you're a big Cambridge fan, but I think we have to say 10-0, and they deserve the lead.
Absolutely, Eddie. I think both coaches have got a lot to say at the half-time break. I think, particularly Cambridge, I'm a bit disappointed with their kick chase. They're very static, their kick chase is actually directly behind the play, the ball. They're not going forward. And although they've actually had some good field possession, they haven't been able to turn it into points. They've been playing very much one-out football. I think Oxford, far more dynamic on the outside. They've hit it up the middle and passed it out to the wings. And as we've seen in John Bradshaw, they've got a game breaker, and they've used his wing twice to come up with 2 good tries.
They both began safety first. It was one-out rugby league, taking no chances, conditions awful. But when Oxford did get the ball wide, as you say, they look very dangerous.
Yeah. I think another thing that both coaches will be keen on is impressing. When you coach union converts, you have to teach them that ball possession, the rudiments of the game, ball possession is absolutely paramount. And that's something we haven't seen. Yes, the conditions are appalling, but there's been so much spilled balls, so many mistakes, and actually a lot of penalties. And I think Cambridge in particular need to work on that aspect of their game.
Well, we saw last year the standard of the varsity match, it just rose and rose. But to be fair, the weather conditions, Brian, are appalling. I noticed early on they were playing the ball absolutely correctly, but They soon got to the pace of it, didn't they? They soon got Super League habits. They're stepping over it now. The referee's got to maybe have a look at that.
Yeah, about 20 minutes into the game when fatigue set in, I think you could have thrown a blanket over them in the middle. They were all bunched up. They lost their shape a bit, which is sort of to be expected. I mean, that happens at every level, really. The conditions aren't helping. They're making it very, very difficult. But I think Oxford are playing a tremendous game. Their defence has been outstanding. They've got Peter Rafferty, who's having, I think, like a wow of a game for Oxford. And considering they've got the wind going against them, I think they're doing a really good job.
Yes, the wind is obviously going to play an important part. Now, from the sound of things, from what the commentators are saying, it's blowing right across the pitch, almost diagonally. I don't know whether that will have any advantage to anyone, really, in the second half, thinking about it.
I think looking at it, it's making difficult for making Oxford's final tackle play very, very difficult. Cambridge seem to have the better option on the kick, so obviously that'll reverse it the other half. So I think we'll look for Oxford to pile on some more points here.
OK, well, just 2 tries in the match so far, both of them coming Oxford's way. They had to weather a little bit of a storm early on, but then they started to move the ball about, and when they were prepared to take a chance, Brian, Oxford found the hole.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice hands for this. I mean, this is what you want to see as a winger, that your centre flicks the ball out here. All too often they might try and go themselves, but really you want to play outside people like John Bradshaw there, who's shifted the ball onto the full-back, and obviously he's come up here again, and this is a tremendous line.
That was a great ball, and he could see the hole, couldn't he, Adi? Straight through.
He's picked a fantastic line there, and that's something he's very good at. We saw it last year, and we're seeing it again today. I think if you go back one step from both of the tries actually came from Cambridge mistakes. The first one was from a knock-on from a bomb. And they've got to cut down the mistakes. That's where they're letting themselves down. If they keep on letting themselves down, they get piggyback down the field, and they will end up playing in their own half. And it's inevitable that Bradshaw, down his wing, things are going to happen. They will be a little sad, Cambridge, because they've had the territory, haven't they? They've been camped on the Oxford line, but the defence for Oxford, I mean, it's obvious. They've got nil against their name in Cambridge. The defence has been superb. Two things, I think, Eddie. You can't honestly say that Oxford have been fantastic. Their defence has been superb. But the problem is that Cambridge are playing a one-out game. They're not spreading the ball, and I think it just needs somebody to step up to the mark for Cambridge this half. Somebody's got to take the game by the scruff of the neck, be it their captain at 13 or one of their half-backs. They've got to step up and actually be counted and take the game by the scruff of the neck. I think we should say that in the regular season, Oxford play in a league that's higher than Cambridge University. But someone has got to, as Adi says, Brian, they've got to stand up, take this game by the scruff of the neck for Cambridge now. Yeah, they do, but it becomes very difficult. You've got to understand the fatigue is going to set in with these guys. For the first 10 minutes where you saw all those big hits, the first 20 minutes, there's a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of adrenaline. But when fatigue and lactic acid starts, filling up your body, you start making these little mistakes. So I think for the last 20 minutes, we saw that they couldn't complete a set, really. They found it very, very difficult. But I think that Oxford are probably handling the situation better. I mean, you had them down to lose by 40, I had them to win. And I think, I look like I'm the better tipster here. It looks like, doesn't it? It's absolutely true. Well, Oxford are ahead by 10 points to nil at half-time. Little known fact, by the way, about Steve-O, who is out there at the Richmond Athletic Ground tonight. He's been saying all evening that he was a plumber in Oxford for 5 years. I can actually tell you that Steve-O actually did, once upon a time, get a blue at Oxford. He would have got the pink, but he snooked himself behind the black. Anyway, we will be back with Steve-O, we'll be back with Phil Clark, and we will be back with Bill Arthur, our commentator, in a few moments' time. Can Cambridge come back? If they do, they've got to stop this fellow, John Bradshaw.
With exclusive reconstructions, one broadcaster will give you a unique insight into the Michael Jackson trial. Daily at 9:30 Sky News, 1:30 Sky One, and 5 o'clock on Sky Mix.
It's funny how it tears me apart. Well, first it breaks your head, then your heart. I should have loved you better from the start. Confusion raining down from up high, and all the time you ask yourself why.
Even close up, hair color should look natural. That's why Just for Men with X-Gray Science targets only the grey hair, replacing it with subtle tones that match your own color. In 5 easy minutes, hair looks natural, no matter how close up she gets. Just for Men, the Rejuvenator.
I shouldn't be here. shouldn't be here.
I shouldn't be here.
Thanks to Cancer Research UK, thousands of people are here today who wouldn't have survived 10 years ago.
My mum should be here.
Please help more people to be here. Call 0800 038 8000 and give £2 a month to Cancer Research UK.
At firstdirect.com you get an interest rate of 5.2% with the new e-savings account. First Direct, it's time for a better rate.
How do we get the gold from the vault to the getaway car?
How wide is the hallway? 6 feet.
The Italian Job, Saturday at 8 and 9 on Sky Movies.
The two live games from the Super League are back this weekend. Friday, Saturday, both of them on Sky Sports 1. Friday at 7:30, Warrington against Saints. And on Saturday at 6, Salford, who had a fabulous win against Lee last weekend on Sky, up against Hull, who actually beat Warrington at the weekend. So that's a 6 o'clock start, Sky Sports 1. Right now, though, we're watching the 2005 varsity match. The second half is on the way, and Oxford are ahead by 10 points to 0. They have never won 3 in a row before, but they're bang on course. Cambridge have actually won 4 in a row in their time, and they have achieved the hat-trick on another occasion as well. And there's only ever been one draw. That was a decade ago in 1995, 22 points apiece. Cambridge looking for their first victory since 2002. Now then, I know you're a big Cambridge fan because you played for them. What does this night mean to the players of Cambridge and Oxford universities?
This is everything for their season. It's absolutely everything. They'll have all their family in the crowd, they'll have their friends. You simply can't go back to Oxford or Cambridge having lost. If you do, you can't hold your head up high. It doesn't matter what sport you're playing in, if you're playing tiddlywinks or if you're rowing or cricket or rugby union or rugby league. It's the one game of the season. Nothing else matters. And those boys have got 40 minutes at Cambridge to rescue their season, basically.
So it's the honour of the university they're playing for, not just their own personal pride.
Absolutely. That's it. You just simply can't go back and hold your head up high if you haven't won.
Well, an awful night to come back from 10 points down. Brian, what do Oxford have to do that?
Well, Cambridge to come back.
Cambridge to come back
from 10. It's definitely not insurmountable. I mean, 10-0 is not a bad scoreline considering that Oxford, battered them there for the last 20 minutes. Well, what I'd say to Cambridge is that you've got to try and make less mistakes, be that drop ball or penalties conceded. And if they can do that, then they'll be in a chance with the game. But again, Oxford, if they just try and cut out the mistakes, they could really put Cambridge to the sword.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, and we've been talking about Bradshaw, the centre. He is a man that he shone last year, didn't he, in this fixture?
Absolutely. He had a great game, and he's just repeating it again this year. Like Adi said previously, if they can get the ball to him, he'll do damage. So Cambridge really got to keep an eye on him and just cut out their mistakes if they can. I mean, they should be proud of this happening in Super League. He's really just picked a great line. One of the defenders has flown out and come up with nothing, really. But all credit to Bradshaw. He's kept his head and just scored a great try.
Big hole in the Cambridge defence there. I mean, they've got to tighten that up in the second half.
Absolutely. But both sides have been actually playing a fairly compact defence, which is sensible given the conditions. I think the problem is you're always trying to teach these rugby union converts not to fly out the line. It's absolutely paramount that your line goes up as one single line of defence. As we saw there, one of the Cambridge guys shot out of the line, left a gaping hole for Bradshaw, and his angled run saw the line perfect.
Well, Cambridge, they haven't won this fixture since 2002. Oxford going for the hat-trick that they have never achieved before. Oxford ahead by 10 points to 0 at half-time. Here we go for the second half. Back to Steve-O, Phil Clark and Bill Arthur.
And the players emerging just in time for another little brief blizzard howling around the ground, and you really do have to emphasise just how inhospitable the conditions are out there. Biting cold wind, hands will be numb. But you've got to keep a hold of this ball, and Oxford have done that better than Cambridge so far. Now Cambridge, desperate to make amends for these last few years of Oxford domination. They really do need something early on in this second half to galvanise them. I'm sure their coach John Evans will have been trying to do that in the dressing room at half-time, but points on the board is what's going to galvanise them.
You can't imagine that it's going to be a high-scoring second half, can you really? You know, I can't see Cambridge coming up with more than 2 or 3 tries. The conditions don't really allow for that here tonight, so they need a patience, but obviously they need some sort of reward early doors to give them encouragement, because it's been hard work for them. They've worked hard taking it forward and being met by a very strong Oxford defence from time to time.
And it was that man, Pete Raftery, again with the tackle. Him and Chris Fitzgerald have got through a boatload of work. And Fitzgerald just, the Oxford skipper, just limping a bit in back plays. Had his left thigh heavily strapped during half-time by the look of things. Bradshaw just flicks the ball away, and Craig Bennett is pounced on by a posse of dark blue defenders and buried in the midfield mud. And so Drysdale has to hoist the kick, and very well taken by Corcoran. It's James Diep, I beg your pardon, these wings have swapped. Get it right, see me after school.
Excellent catch. There's Corcoran now with the dummy half run and some good meters. That's what we want to see, players running north to south. They don't want to be running to the sidelines, they want to be running to the try line.
Well, that's east to west, really. That's north. No, that's south.
It's a rugby league saying, Bill. North to south means from goalpost to goalpost.
That's a new one on me, Phil, but I'll accept that.
Chris Fitzgerald on halfway.
You know the rugby league compass on a pitch.
Alan Eddington. Here's Ben Simpson, and Simpson then with a kick from Eddington, and that's very coolly dealt with by Basu.
Well, he didn't see much possession in the first half. They look as though they're going to kick maybe. At least he's had his hands on the ball once more this half. A dangerous play if he can just get some possession.
You were saying earlier, Phil, in regards, you feel that it won't be a high-scoring second half. I've just got a tendency to think that a lot of these forwards especially, they've expended so much energy out there. I think fitness is going to play its part, and I think we might get a glut of tries very late in this match.
I tell you what, if Cambridge have been on the wagon for 2 weeks, they deserve something out of this game for that sort of sacrifice.
Was the first knock forward from Cambridge. The second half's open though, with both sides moving a greater distance. Basically they were restricted to about 20-metre gains in a set of 5 or 6 runs, but both teams are moving further up the field with possession.
And talking of possession, I thought Cambridge a little bit unlucky on that occasion. It appeared to me as though that ball went backwards. The second receiver never lost control.
Well, Tom Ridgway has just come back onto the field, and he's immediately being sent back.
Wants to know
whence
why.
He came. Well, that's the reason why.
Well, in this weather, it's hard to tell whether you've just got a cold or whether it's blood.
So, back comes Alex Story with Tom Ridgway, management studies students. The wind howling around the commentary box here.
Well, that's an advantage that Oxford have. And a guy like Bailey in the centre is almost an extra forward who, in these conditions, just taking it forward. Another strong charge there now from Oxford. 20 metres gained in 2 runs, and they're on the front foot going forward as Simpson darts from that dummy half. They'll take any metres on offer.
He's been impressive, hasn't he, the hooker, Simpson? Control things at dummy half, but also kept an eye out for just the occasional break.
Raftery. I think we're going to have to hoist the Storm rigging shortly. But Oxford doing well to get that ball out wide until they're thundered into by the Cambridge defence. So they bring it back across the field, and Eddington puts a neat little kick in, and that's got Cambridge under all sorts of pressure.
Great kick from Eddington, wasn't it? It was always going to cause problems for the Cambridge defence.
He did well to Basu. Okay, he misses on the first occasion, but look how he just forces the ball. And you drop out from underneath the sticks, but good work from the winger.
Neil Basu, who are from St Peter's School in York, just managing to ground that ball, but means Cambridge will face another Oxford set of 6. And Alan Eddington has certainly played his part in just keeping Oxford, or keeping the screw on for Oxford. Ben Dunnett, the Scot, makes good yards. And here's the skipper, Fitzgerald. Classic head down and, you know what? Upward, pointed, yes.
3 strong, powerful runs there from Oxford. They've set for a good position. Will they come to the right and Bradshaw?
The odds are yes. Eddington almost worked, but the pass just too high for Mark Drew to take.
Well, Cambridge had to come up and cut that off, otherwise they were completely outnumbered on their left-hand side. Oxford's right, which has been the danger side, but a good run there from Walding. It's relieved a little bit of pressure. Now then, his teammates, are they flagging? Ball goes to ground. Oxford again starting the second half just that little bit stronger.
Nowhere for Alex Story to go. Here's Rich Draycott. Cambridge really struggling to make any headway. Alex Story again. Seeing plenty of the ball. Bradshaw pops that ball up, and once more Draycott is there, a willing worker.
It's important now that Cambridge get a very good kick downfield. They've got to apply the pressure.
Drysdale across the field, and it's put Dieppe under a little bit of pressure, or Johnny Depp as he's known.
He's been strong as well, the centre there, Bailey.
He is a solid figure, Joe Bailey. He's been done it again. Well, he certainly has justified the decision to play.
Well, his legs pump even faster as soon as the defender hits him, and that's a good sign. Wants to go forward in the collision, and again, so does Raftery.
Good tactics as well by Oxford. They realise that, oh, that's an error, knock on, but they realise they've got the 10-point lead.
And Raftery, a Union Blue, just losing control of that ball there.
Through a lot of work, you know, this fella. Some good defence as well from the big second rower. And the wind here, well, it's just howling.
So we're going to have to tie Steve-O to the mast very shortly.
Well, the thing's moving around up here. It's not my hair, I can tell you that. But boy, it's difficult conditions, Will, for these players. It's biting cold.
Well, the spectators must be feeling it as well.
Well, maybe just a ray of hope here now in this dismal night for Cambridge. They win a penalty, and for the first time in the second half, they're going to have a chance to play the game in Oxford's half. And they're deep in it too. It's 30 metres from the try line. Very often you run a bit harder when you're near your opponent's line, and maybe they just need that incentive of the whitewash. They need a bit more power when carrying the ball.
Penalties 4 apiece. Cambridge's latest, allowing them to really put a bit of pressure on this Oxford line now. They're 20 metres out. Drysdale. Sam Uden now, and now Dave Bully. Bully, a Cheshire lad, went to Birkenhead School. And here goes Carl Bradshaw. Bradshaw going on his own. He's looking for some support. There was nobody there. Needed a little runner on his shoulder. And Oxford have come up with possession, and Cambridge have squandered another great opportunity.
And compounded that with a penalty as well. The conditions make it difficult to kick to touch. It's worth pointing out, Bill, that these are not the only two sides playing rugby league in universities around the country. In fact, there are 66 teams playing in the Student Rugby League competition. They're ranging from Exeter University all the way up to Napier University in Edinburgh. And the growth of rugby league via the university network is really been one of the strongest areas of rugby league development over the last 2 or 3 decades.
Well, another significant development is the fact that Oxford now actually have a rugby league scholarship, and for the next academic year there'll be 2 students at the university on the rugby league scholarship. Jonathan Prescott is a great rugby league name. I don't think he's any relation. He comes from Standish. And Johnny Gorry from Lymm in Cheshire, and we saw Gorry in last year's varsity match. He's actually left. He's coming back to do I think a postgrad course, and so that's a great development from Oxford. This is a good development from Oxford as well.
It is how quickly they've worked their way upfield. They are the stronger of the two sides here tonight. Good pick-up from Eddington. Ships it on and moves it wide, and here's Bradshaw.
Bradshaw's got Corcoran outside him. This is a dangerous combination. Bully manages to get hold of Corcoran.
Well, I'm surprised at Corcoran. We saw in the first half he's got plenty of speed, but he opted to go back on the inside. I thought he had plenty of space out wide.
It's a tricky little grubber kick from Eddington. Oh, and it's knocked on by Adam Staton, I think it is.
He's going to give it.
He's given the try. And Nigel Brooke-Walters, I think, is going to claim that one. And what a dream return to the game it is for the Oxford replacement. Nigel Brooke-Walters out for about a year with that neck injury.
And he really considered whether or not it was worth playing the medical risk to play, but so important to appear in the varsity match. Again, a dangerous kick from Eddington. Those short kicks towards the in-goal area, and the quality of the chase from the Oxford players gave them a chance. I mean, he was helped, Nigel Brooke-Walters, by Edmonds, who goes in challenging for the ball very bravely. Hard for Cambridge to deal with, and perfect pick-up and put down for Brooke-Walters.
Just shows you the importance of ensuring the kick on the ground, slippery conditions. It was always going to be a problem for Cambridge there.
Well, Alan Eddington's kicking game has been a significant contribution. The kick from Joe Bailey there, 2 more points, and Oxford now, if it's possible in these conditions, have a grip on the game. They're ahead by 16 points to 0.
And I think you'd put that down to the pretty solid play as well from Alan Eddington, and the combination of the two centres for Oxford, Bailey and Bradshaw. They've impressed me.
So Cambridge with a mountain to climb now. It's got snow on it.
Well, this is it. Yes, you're right. It's an Everest in a way. It's a varsity Everest for them. But we'll get to see the desire they have now to get back in, save some pride from the game. And a good run from Dunnett. He's taken the ball forward very well. Need some big guys in these conditions, and Oxford have had them willing to work hard enough.
I think the power of the Oxford pack now is coming to the fore, Phil, and it's creating all sorts of problems for Cambridge. They realise now, Oxford, they've got the extra skill, and once they get into a good position, if they get Cambridge back in their own quarter, they know they have the ability to be able to break down this defensive line from Cambridge. It's good tactics by Oxford. They fully deserve their lead.
Oh, that's a shame.
It would have looked good if that had come off, wouldn't it?
Beautiful little inside pass from Eddington. Edmonds just slightly overran the pass, but there was a gap there between the two defenders. Simpson picks it up, but the referee's given a knock on, and well, it's opportunities like this. They won't get many more inside Oxford's half to attack from this position the way Oxford have played. Denied them any field position.
They really do need to take advantage of this set of 6. And the ball back across the field. Johnny Lloyd. Tackled about 30 metres out. Bradshaw. That's with Richard Draycott, senior member of the side, Draycott.
Well, the light blues running out of time now. They've really got to test their arm. They've got to do something completely different. Can they keep the ball alive? Great defence. Superb stuff there, Bradshaw.
They at least need a good kick on the end of this set. And it's fielded by Matt Scaife, last year's university president, rugby league president. Ooh, was that a little knock on? I think there was.
Well, there's your invitation to get back in it.
There's Matt Scaife. It wasn't his knock on. It's just there.
It's a little one, but it all counts.
It's Paul Mulryan.
Substitute makes an error.
Well, he's spent 50 minutes or so sitting on the bench. He's perishing. Wind at their backs down there on the touchline.
It is freezing, Bill, as you well know, and it's extremely difficult. You've got to really give them a good clap on the back, you know, these guys. Then it's awful conditions.
Well, applies to everybody present here this evening.
You need 5 in the scrum.
Needs their sanity checking.
Cambridge just waiting to pack this scrum here now. They're looking to the sidelines. They've got to get a man either on the field or play on.
Well, they've got possession. Pete Quentin is tackled just a few yards out. Bradshaw going on himself, pops that ball up.
Again, a great tackle from John Bradshaw.
Draycott again. Once more, they're pounding that Oxford line with the short pass. Lloyd held up short that time. Drysdale, but he's mobbed by Oxford defenders and driven back.
Now then, dummy out front from Bradshaw, will it be? Yes.
It is. Bradshaw then pops the ball back inside him. His opposite number, or his namesake I should say, John Bradshaw, pounces on that ball.
Well, you just saw the extra commitment really in the Oxford defensive ranks. They, I think, so clearly have benefited from a lesson in Rugby League when they played at Featherstone just a week or so before this varsity challenge. And they went away from there bitterly disappointed with the result. But it appears to me they're not only good at learning in an academic way, they're also good at learning in a rugby way.
And an interesting link between Oxford and Featherstone is their sponsor, Steve Evans, ex-Featherstone and Hull, who has gone on to make a very good career in the city and works for a big financial company who are sponsors of this Oxford side. And it was Steve Evans, of course, involved with Featherstone Rovers still, who set up that fixture and has been a great help to Oxford.
They might not have felt it when they kept standing behind the post watching the Featherstone player kick at goal, but they've benefited here tonight when they've counted. Good run there.
Welding, that's a great break from the winger. Now then, can that lift the side? Oh, Bradshaw just hesitating, and they've lost a little bit of momentum there. They've lost a lot of momentum. And a flop from Oxford, and Cambridge will get the penalty.
And what's going on there, you can't see who in the Cambridge side can come up with a try. I don't know whether they can get close to the line and somebody can crash over, but...
Well, the irony is that Adam Staton, who's the full-back, is... we haven't really seen that much of him, but he scored 5 tries against Anglia University in a recent fixture. He got 4 against Exeter University. And I don't think he's had his hands on the ball other than in a
what about that then, Bill?
capacity.
The referee's just sent the water carrier off. I think it might have been de-ice that they had in the bottles. It's just sent him off.
It was something, a hot toddy or something like that.
I don't know why he'd want to come out.
He's only running around to keep warm.
But this is a great opportunity for Cambridge, and the ball's popped up.
You talk about Cambridge not having a try scorer. The run from Walding, you know, he should start looking for the football. There's some neat step in there.
Drysdale is over. Alex Drysdale has got that ball down. And great work from the Cambridge scrum half, Alex Drysdale, who seemed to have been stopped. And now has that inspired his side.
Well, you're right, Steve-O, there was something in that drinks bottle, because it's got them going for the first time. They've broken through 2 or 3 tackles, and it's a great strength there while dragging a man forward. He's got the presence to look around, find where the line is, holds the ball up, and then eventually when he's close enough, places it just over the try line and gives his Cambridge teammates a little bit of hope and optimism.
Well, they needed to just test that arm, and they certainly did. Alex Drysdale, perhaps throughout this game being outplayed by his opposite, Alan Eddington, says, well, look, I'm going to do something about this, and he certainly did. They're back in it.
Well, if Sam Uden can kick this, they have a glimmer of hope. And Uden has done just that. 16-6 the scoreline. Cambridge with a wind in their sails. And Drysdale, a law student who cites Darren Lockyer as one of his favourite players. Well, it was an inspiring moment from Drysdale. Can it inspire his side to come back?
Well, we've seen a great defensive performance for almost an hour from this Oxford University team, but the first chink in it there, and does any doubt start to creep in their mind? Can they handle any pressure that Cambridge can throw at them? They've handled the occasion well so far.
Well, I just get the feeling that Cambridge, if they do score, I think you're right, Bill, the Gremlins will start bouncing around in the brain box. And I suppose in many ways, Oxford cannot afford, still plenty of time, they can't afford to just close up shop.
We're watching back in the studio, A.D. Spencer and Brian Carney. And Brian, do you reckon Cambridge can come back now?
Well, they can if they can hold on to the ball. They put a bit of pressure on Oxford. It's hard to see now with the snow coming down. I can assure you it's nice and warm in this studio, and it's even hotter with the cups of tea we're throwing down our necks. But if they can just build pressure, the Oxford defence is outstanding. But Cambridge just need to build pressure here now. If they can score again in the next 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, then I think it's game on.
Well, they're looking to force a tackle. Force the error in the tackle, I should say. At least pin Oxford down.
Well, you just see the lift it's given to them, isn't it? They've almost contained the Oxford side in that zone for 3 tackles. Can they continue to keep them down there and force them to kick later from deep?
There's a bit more vim and vigour about this Cambridge defence as well.
Well, you need to be rewarded for your efforts, and they've got that through the 6 points and the try.
But they've missed a couple of tackles there and allowed Alex Edmonds to make some good yards. And it's Fitzgerald who's forced to kick, and it's not a good kick.
Surely that's got to be a penalty. I think
they were offside, weren't they?
The man was in front of the kicker when he kicked the ball. Not sure whether he's aware. He had to allow the player to run 10 metres with the ball.
He's impressed me, Bill, this referee, Mr. Bentham.
I bet he's found it an alien environment because he's not been booed in an hour. The fans are so polite.
Oh, I've still got plenty of time, Phil.
But it's Cambridge again now, pressing towards this Oxford line, looking for a second try that would really open this game up. Rustling. Here's Rich Draycott again. He really has been involved. Not bad for a guy with a couple of dodgy ankles. Drysdale, the try scorer, looking again to take on the Oxford defence. Rustling. Pops that ball up. Bennett trying to go himself. And Rustling trying to burrow through, but he's held up short of that line. 5th tackle. They go down the short side. They must be in here. They are. It's Dave Bully, the kickboxer from Cheshire. And he's given this Cambridge side a kickstart now, I tell you that.
They lined up on an almost American football style. They had players either side of the play the ball, blocking the defenders, and then threw the ball behind them. And I think one of the Oxford players has just been to speak to the referee about this.
Well, it was a neat switch to the blind side, wasn't it? It was excellent play. They were just having a bit of a rest there. You can see there's 2 or 3 down on their haunches. And well finished. But the little run from the open to the blind side. Well, we said test their arm. They've produced in the last 5 minutes some very entertaining rugby league football. And as Brian Carney in the warm studio mentioned, game on if they can score. And they've just done that. This is an important conversion, though.
Well, it's a really tricky one for Sam Uden, but he does have the wind at his back. And he could swing this one in. And if he does, then it will really put the cat among the pigeons. Uden from out wide. Hangs this one in the air, but it hasn't got the distance. Didn't really get a hold of that, but nevertheless, Dave Bully's try has closed the gap to just 6 points. And Bully, former Birkenhead school pupil, who's an all-round athlete. He is a kickboxer. He's good at the shot put as well, and he's a handy finisher for Cambridge.
Well, him and his teammates have been held by 3 penalties that Oxford have conceded, and that's allowed Cambridge to get downfield. And we've seen on those 2 occasions now, maybe they've developed a confidence to think, look, let's have a go, let's try it. to run a little bit harder and challenge this Oxford side, and in doing so they've been rewarded with 2 tries. They just need to get again downfield without coming up with a mistake in their own half.
Well, let's find out what the mood is down on the sidelines. And down there is Ben Pro. Ben.
Well, Bill, that last Cambridge try really has given renewed heart to the Cambridge bench down here pitch side. The words of the Cambridge boss, John Evans, at half-time really had given this cause up. When I asked him what he'd said to his team at the break, he just said they just need to do better. Well, they've certainly done that, and they are thinking now about the Bob Mahuta Trophy, which goes to the winners of this game. Bob Mahuta played in the very first varsity in 1981. So, yes, definitely renewed confidence down here on the Cambridge bench.
Well, they've every right to be confident. They've fought their way back into this game.
Great pressure from Simon Dewsbury, though, on the kicker. He did manage to get his hands to it, took some speed off the ball.
Fine rugby league name, Simon Dewsbury.
Of course.
I think he's from Cirencester.
It's in between Dewsbury and Battery, don't worry about it. Well, it's certainly brought this game to life, hasn't it? Those 2 quick tries by the Light Blues, and I just got the feeling, Phil, that when they scored that second try, I feel the Oxford players, they were struggling.
Well, they're not struggling now. They're coming forward, although that's the 5th tackle. Needs a good kick. Eddington's shown he's capable of that, and he's hanging that one up in the wind. That's a really tricky one, and Frank Walding gets it at the 2nd attempt, I think.
Well, the referee said he went backwards.
Yeah, he got it right there.
There's, yep, just manages to get a hold of it. Cambridge managing to make some yards now and coming away from their line, and Tom Finnegan, who has the very briefest of memories of last year's varsity match. You might remember he got knocked out in the first 5 minutes of that game, and he doesn't remember he didn't remember anything at all about it. So he's come back for a 2nd attempt to see if this one will be more memorable.
Well, let's hope he enjoys it a bit more tonight. Looking to get some distance on this kick. They're just looking a patient game, but a great catch again by Diab.
He did very well to take that one.
Again, without overemphasising how difficult these conditions are. Swirling wind, a very cold night. Bradshaw takes some metres. He's going to be hard to stop here.
Bradshaw has Corcoran outside him. Goes on his own. But that's really relieved the pressure for Oxford now. Eddington ships the ball on. Simpson. And then it goes, well, Basu could have got on the end of that one, maybe.
That'll be back to 6. Definitely went for the football. Oxford well in charge now. Are you going to say it, Phil, or am I? 1 point?
Well, in these conditions, Alan Eddington's shown some pretty good kicking skills, hasn't he? He'd like it if he could get it.
It's Matt Scaife with that last run. Then it's Paul Mulryan.
Discipline, come on.
Here is Eddington. Oh, and that has touched Cambridge hand, I think. Will that be back to 6? It is. Yep. Well, the pressure is on once more.
It shouldn't be. The ball played the man, not the other way around. They've been very fortunate, Oxford.
Off goes Ben Simpson. He's tackled about 10 metres out. Bailey trying to use his considerable strength to bustle his way through this Cambridge defence. The ball's popped up, and it's Basu who picks the loose ball up for Cambridge.
Well, they're living on the edge, but they're surviving out there, the Cambridge side.
Here's Adam Statten, top try scorer for this Cambridge side.
Is it going to be 5 runs from the dummy half? They win a penalty with the markers not being square. They can find some fine touch here with a good kick.
That came about, you know, by the quick play of the ball and the run from Walding. That was excellent stuff.
What a kick.
That is a great kick, and that's driven Cambridge deep into this Oxford half. Another try here for Cambridge, and that really would set this game up for a rousing finish. And Oxford maybe just 1 or 2 doubts in the minds now. They look so in control at half-time.
Well, they do look strong defensively, but anybody can be broken if they're on or close to the line, and that's where Cambridge are heading for.
They come back in field again, and Bennett is taken firmly by this Oxford defence. Rustling, pops the ball up. It's with Johnny Lloyd.
Now then, will they work the short blind side yet again? Produced a try a few moments ago. I'm not so sure they couldn't be pinned for offside there. You're supposed to get back into the attacking side.
Little kick and chase, and it is a try! It's Drysdale with his second! And that is straight out of the Paul Deacon or Sean Long kicking book. That's one of you, he was aiming for that padding kicks, wasn't it, Steve?
It was, and it was a great kick, wasn't it? Again, Oxford complaining about the American football-style blockers, who are really illegally standing next to the play of the ball.
And
again,
a
wonderful kick.
Yeah, aim for it. There was no doubt about that, but they've got to be offside.
And they did it at the last try as well, so Oxford won't be happy when the kick goes over, I'm sure, and the scores will be left at 16 all.
Well, they've got away with it.
Nothing Matt Scape could do about this as a fullback. If he had to check, he thought the ball was going to go behind the post, changed direction, too late.
Well, there they are. 1, 2, 3. And then even the man playing the ball obstructs the opposite, Mr. Fitzgerald. And here's the little kick. Superb. Thank you very much indeed. Surely they'll convert this, and then we'll see the 1 point.
Sam Uden from right in front of the posts should level the scores now. We've only had the one draw in the 25-year history of this varsity match, and that was a rain-enforced draw back in the 90s.
Steve-O, I'll buy you a meal at the best restaurant you want in this country if this game's settled by 1 point.
The best restaurant in this country?
It'll be somewhere in Dewsbury or Bath. I know its taste.
You've got some witnesses.
Oh, yes.
If this game's settled by 1 point...
By 1 point.
Is it just him? Can I not come?
He can take who he likes.
Oh, well.
He can bring who he likes, I should say.
Well, it won't be you, Bill, I can assure you.
Oh, lovely.
He's just sent a message down to Ben Pro on the sidelines.
He needs feeding up. Well, Cambridge really have got their sails up now, and their supporters in fine voice. Teeth chattering.
Well, it's a brave call, Phil, mainly due to the fact that I'm sure both coaches will say, look, get anywhere near, we'll have a go for it.
9 minutes to go. The scores are level.
You'd have to think that the momentum is obviously behind Cambridge, coming back as they have done now with 16 points all. But I still feel that the class in the Oxford side will come through and win this game. Fifth tackle, making good meters.
This is an important kick. If he gets it right into the corner, maybe they can force the error.
Drysdale has got a good boot on him and forces Matt Scaife to turn and retrieve that ball on his own try line. Well, now Cambridge at training last night at local rugby club were working on their kick chase, and Corcoran has come up with a clanger. What a time to spill the ball. Well,
not standing square, both of them. And,
no.
But to be fair, we did say there's quite a few players out there not really au fait with the rules. And I think I'd have to say the referee might have a few trouble with them.
Here's Craig Bennett now, who really has been an inspirational captain.
Well, surely they'll go for an 8-course meal.
Oh, if they can hold on to that ball.
They will now.
I think the lure of a try will draw them to the line, Steve-O.
Well, I don't know about that. Drysdale is standing
Here
back.
It comes.
Here's Steve-O's dinner. Oh, he's on for it.
You little beauty.
Best restaurants in the country. Here we come. Table for 3.
Where's that hooter?
I can't believe it.
I can.
I feel like Victor Andrew.
I can see that wine list now.
1 point.
Is this the best game you've ever been to in your life, Steve-O?
It could turn out that way, that's for sure. And full credit to this Cambridge side, you know, the first half, Oxford, they were bossing the entire game. They were in control even in the first 10 minutes after the restart. But as you often say, it's not over yet. I can't even see the fat lady, never mind seeing anybody singing.
Well, I can't remember when Oxford were last in an attacking position. It just seems as though Cambridge have had possession and Oxford have been near their own line. That's the compliment to John Evans in the way that he's re-guided his side in the second half. Tactically, they've been perfect.
And to be fair to Cambridge as well, they've utilised one advantage. You know, the wind has turned around. It is helping them. And that 3 or 4 beautiful kicks downfield. Remember, the last kick, fullback came up with an error.
Oh, is that an error by Rustling? Did he knock that ball on? No.
Went backwards.
Referee Phil Bentham had a look at the touch judge, Phil Bentham, and...
There's your American football linebackers, aren't they called there?
I just think they're too tired to get out of the way.
Well, it's been a good ploy. Scored 2 tries for it.
Matt Scaife takes a big tackle from Tom Ridgway. He's patched up and back out there.
I think I'd be sending an SOS to John Bradshaw, the number 4 for Oxford. He's got the pace to score from anywhere on the field, and he's just not had his hands on the ball enough in the second half.
Good drive from Hadfield. So 17-16 in Cambridge's favour.
There's an Oxford try coming, Bill, don't worry.
You're just thinking of your bank balance, aren't you? Well, a good run from Ben Dunnett.
That'll lift their spirits.
But it's the 5th tackle. Needs a good kick from Eddington. Eddington, that's one for Bradshaw to chase, and a little bit of hesitation, almost fatal hesitation from Frank Walding. He took an eternity, it seemed, to get to that ball, and Bradshaw very nearly punished him.
He certainly did. I nearly swallowed my teeth then. When,
well, don't do that. You need those for the dinner.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't take those. He takes those out before the dinner.
I have a space.
So you go in a blender.
This is going to be one heck of a finish, and you know, I must congratulate both sides. I thought that they'd tired a lot quicker than this, but they've just found reserve of energy from somewhere.
Cambridge down to 12 at the moment because I think it's Craig Bennett is down in back plate having treatment for what looks like a touch of cramp. But it's a good chase from Cambridge, and Dieppe hounded down by the light blues.
The lady Spencer spoke in the studio before the match about just how important the varsity challenge was in any sport between Oxford and Cambridge, and we're seeing it here now, aren't we, in the closing minutes of this match, how important it is to win this match.
Bailey rustling in with the tackle there. And Cambridge really have been a different side in this second half. It's their voices you can hear on the touchline. And Bradshaw finds Corcoran, and Corcoran does well to stay in the field of play, and Corcoran, he's away from 3, he's going across the field now, looking for some support.
Great play.
That's the 5th tackle.
Lovely offload there from Bradshaw. He's a danger man.
Eddington with the kick. He'll try and put a bit of pressure, but that's well taken by Sam Uden, and Uden tidying up nicely for Cambridge.
Well, they've got a couple of minutes to try and survive, haven't they, Cambridge?
2.5 minutes. They're clinging on to this lead to give them their first win in the last 3 years.
Important Oxford don't give away a silly penalty. They know they've enough time. They'll get one set of 6, perhaps. Oh, that's good play. They've worked it out well, Cambridge.
The way they've controlled possession in the second half, Bill, has been outstanding. Very few mistakes. They've got to the last tackle, and they've put a quality kick in with some enthusiasm in the chase behind it, and it's got them, I think, a very, very impressive win.
Drysdale, one of their impressive performers. Tim Ridgway as well.
He'll be quite happy with that, Bill. You know, a lot of people say, oh, it's gone too long, it's gone too dead, but well, we've got a Cambridge player down.
It's Craig Bennett again.
Has he lost a contact lens?
He really is struggling.
We're getting back to that that kick, where it went letting go. You can see now that Oxford will face a long run upfield. Cambridge will be quite happy just to repel them. He's in a lot of pain. I think he may have to leave the game.
Oxford in a huddle meanwhile. Just a galvanising talk from Chris Fitzgerald there to lift his side for the last couple of minutes here. If they can fight their way up the other end of the field and at least snatch a point to tie this match, they would keep the J.K. Lee Trophy, awarded to the winners of this contest. And Oxford hold it, but Cambridge looking for their first win since 2002. And they're a minute away from it.
Bill, I think that Oxford realise now they've got the speed in Corcoran. Maybe the kick downfield and just test it. Hope that they get the lucky bounce. It's not going to be easy into a very strong wind.
Bradshaw and Corcoran again, and this time Frank Walding sticks to him, and Sam Uden is there as well.
And they've gone wide to Dieppe. They're desperate now, they have to throw it around, but so is the Cambridge defensive effort. And even though we've been to the right and the left touchline of this field, there hasn't been any way forward for Oxford.
Well, I can't see Cambridge losing this unless they do something silly penalty.
Into the final minute then. Oxford in possession, but Cambridge a magnificent fight back. 16-0 down. And they've fought their way back to be within a few seconds of a great victory. But Oxford throwing caution to the wind here. They've got to do that. They've got 30 seconds now.
They've got one play, Bill, it's as simple as that.
It's got to be a kick chase. Scaife puts the kick in. And Bradshaw it is who's back there, I think.
Ooh, it looked for one moment there, Bradshaw had knocked on, but just pulled it, and he has knocked on.
And the full-time whistle goes. And it's Cambridge who are celebrating a remarkable victory, coming back from 16-0 down, inspired by that man, Alex Drysdale, a couple of tries and a drop goal. And it really did look as though Oxford had this game in the bag, but a determined second half performance has given Cambridge their first varsity rugby league victory since 2002, and Oxford's run of success in this competition comes to an end, a dramatic end, and Cambridge celebrates a great win. And Rich Draycott and Sam Uden, I beg your pardon, it's Tom Finnegan. Finnegan knocked out early on last year. Well, he'll remember this one. A great victory for Cambridge, and their hero, one of their heroes tonight, scrum half Alex Drysdale. He's with Ben.
Alex, 16-0 down at half-time. How did you win that game?
I've no idea. I mean, the boys went in at half-time, and I think we were feeling we didn't do ourselves justice in that first half. We knew we could all play a lot better. Our coach sat us down and said, you know, everyone could give more. We went out there that second half, and we took it to Oxford. Credit to every single one of my players on my side. They all put 110% in, and it's the effort of 2 terms of rugby league. Thanks go to Ed Hales as well, captain. He broke his leg and couldn't be here tonight. It's just absolutely fantastic. Thanks to this man as well, Coach John Evans.
Just to stay with you for a second, just 2 tries and a drop goal. A fantastic effort in that second period from a personal point of view.
Yeah, I mean, the ball just came to me and we were going to spin it wide, and then it just opened up in front of me, the goal. I thought we're level, go for the 1-pointer. And lucky for me, I struck it well, straight over the middle. I'm just thrilled, absolutely thrilled.
And you've denied Oxford a 3rd consecutive win. Was that something you talked about before the game?
Yeah, I mean, I know that the bookies had Oxford as favourites. Everyone thought they had more being from the starting lineup last year. We've got a lot of new faces this year. But just credit to all the lads. We've really come together. We've got the strongest team spirit. It's absolutely brilliant.
Alex, congratulations. You're the man of the match. John, spoke to you at half-time. You didn't have a lot to say at that point. You must be absolutely delighted now.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be much common sense coming out of my mouth at the moment. That has got to be the most extraordinary comeback I've been involved in rugby league. I'm a bit choked up. It's tough. I'm sorry, they did great. They did great. They're a real credit to the university, the colleges. 16-0, that is a real special event when a side can come back like that in awful weather conditions. And I think we decided to start playing to our plan in the second half. We started in the kick chase well, and we started believing in what we've been doing in training in previous games. And it's great when it comes off. But 16-0 to come back against a very, very strong Oxford side. A lot of big guys who took some pulling down all night, but we stuck with it. We stuck to the task. And I'm absolutely wrapped.
John, thank you very, very much.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic win in the second half for Cambridge University. Thanks to Ben Pro on the sideline, Steve-O, Phil Clark and Bill Arthur in the commentary box. And I don't think anybody in Oxford's colours can quite believe what has happened to them in the second half. It's a little bit like Wigan against Bradford in the Super League last Friday night. A fantastic win for Cambridge University. Adi Spencer is alongside us here, and he is beaming all over his face. That is the closest, Adi, the closest result in student rugby league history in this match, Oxford against Cambridge.
Absolutely. I think I'm probably the second happiest man in the studio, Eddie, after yourself, after your bet came good. I completely can't believe it. I mean, what did we talk about after the first half? We said that Cambridge needed to execute their sets better. They needed to complete their sets. They did so. I don't think they made a single mistake the whole second half. And there you have it. We said somebody had to step up to the mark, and Alex Drysdale did. He was fantastic that second half. He scored 2 tries.
And that's why he's just received the Man of the Match award. A couple of tries and the drop goal. And a night for him to remember, and a night for everybody in Cambridge's colours to remember too, because they had no chance. 16-0, the game was all over.
I was ready to go home myself, Eddie. I thought it was all over. But I think, I mentioned the passion and the spectacle and how important the occasion is. I think that was written all over his face when he was interviewed at the end of the game. I don't think you'll see a happier man. I don't think you'll see a happier man with the Challenge Cup in his hands or with the Super League in his hands. It meant the world to him. You could see that.
It did. Well, up come the beaten Oxford side, led by their captain, Chris Fitzgerald. Brian Carney, we heard throughout the course of the match commentary that Phil Clark will now be taking Steve-O out for a meal at, quote, the best restaurant in the country. If it ended up as a drop goal that won the match, well, a drop goal has won it. It's an expensive night for Mr. Clark, this.
It is. I wouldn't like to have to feed Steve-O. He's got a big barrel that could take a lot of food.
He's got a voracious appetite. You're absolutely right.
You can tell that by looking at him. No, these men are going to be wondering how they lost that game. To be 16-0 up and playing quite well against a team that they were making a lot of mistakes in the first half, but it's a totally different side that came out in the second half. I mean, they've got to be listening to what we were saying in the commentary. They were just almost mistake-free for the whole of the second half, and that's exactly what's won them the game.
And up come the winning Cambridge side now to pick up the trophy that has not been theirs since 2002, when they won by 22 points to 10. David Oxley there, a great figure of rugby league in general and student rugby league in particular. He's a great supporter of the student game, is David Oxley, the former Secretary General of the Rugby League, and he is handing out the winners' medals to the Cambridge side. I mean, Oxford, they went in as favourites because they play in a superior league, so they say, and they'd won the last 2. And, well, the first time in 3 years that Cambridge go home with the trophy. Great night for them.
Great night, absolutely fantastic. You saw how much it meant to their coach and to the man of the match there, Alex Drysdale. It's fantastic. And as he said, to come back from 16-0 down is a feat in any sport, and I mean, there's a lot of teams that can learn from that, but there's a lot to be said about sticking in there and trying to stay mistake-free even when you're 16-0 down.
Absolutely, and a lot of people in the Super League pour scorn on Steve-O's calls for one-pointers, and we in the studio said that we thought that Cambridge had taken the wrong option when they went for the 1 point, but as it turns out, what a weapon it was.
That's exactly right. It was a telling point in the end. We both thought that they had Oxford on the rack and they should have probably put the screws in, but no, they got the 1 point.
Well, this is the moment that they've waited for in Cambridge, and Craig Bennett, their captain, has the trophy, and up it goes. And Cambridge University are the varsity champions of 2005. Many, many congratulations to them. They've waited a long, long time for it. 14-10 it was in 1999 to Cambridge. The draw in 1995. We've seen the closest result since then tonight. Oxford won it 12-9 in 1989, and they won it 8-6 in 1985. This, though, the closest ever, and Cambridge get their varsity revenge in this, the 25th meeting between the two universities. They've been on the wagon, AD, for 2 weeks, Cambridge. They won't be tonight.
They certainly won't. There'll be plenty of ale sunk in Richmond, and they'll be on the bus back home and celebrating into the early hours of the morning in Cambridge. And, well, alongside them will be all their peers as well to congratulate them. So, fantastic evening for these boys. They'll remember it for a long time.
And they're going to celebrate it, aren't they? They're going to celebrate it for all they are worth. The most unlikely result. Brian, you know what it's like because you watch Wigan lose by 1 point on Friday. I mean, what thoughts now are going through the Oxford dressing room?
Well, they'll be gutted. I mean, we get a chance to go out the following week and put it right. This was the one-off game for them, and they've lost it. How often does a final fail to live up to expectations? But that was the beauty out tonight. It was a bit of a scrappy first half, but the second half was fantastic, and we really had a really good, you know, a thrilling final, really, which is a rare occasion, really.
Absolutely. I mean, at 16-0, the boys in light blue looked dead and buried.
Well, dead and buried. I couldn't see a way back for them. But then they kept a mistake-free game, and they got to build that pressure that we talked about. And eventually, you know, mistakes will come from the other side when you put on pressure and pressure.
Just looking at John Evans there, I think he's actually unrecognisable from the man I've seen the last 2 years. It's actually the first time I've ever seen a smile on his face, which is fantastic. I'm looking forward to meeting up with him later on to have a beer.
I bet you are. I bet you are. And I think by the looks of the smile on his face, he actually might just buy you one. You never know, AD. There it is. A fantastic end to the varsity match, as it turned out. 16-0 down, Cambridge. They fought back, they scored the tries, and in the end, the one-pointer that not only has cost Phil Clark a fortune, a big meal for Steve-O as a result of that, but Cambridge have won the trophy.